Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask BQ on Bloomberg Quint, and I'm Alex Matthew.
And I'm Agam Vakil. In this show gets you answers to all your equity-related queries, and we're present on all platforms. So you can send your queries to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp, or call us on 022-4540-4141. You can also mail us at askbq@bloombergquint.com. Make sure you add the AskBQ hashtag.
Well, the markets just before the market holiday, just about flat to marginally positive, aren't they?
Right. Well, Alex, we are looking at a little bit of a recovery after we've seen some amount of weakness over the previous couple of sessions. As you can see, well, the Nifty Bank is trading flat, but the Nifty is, well, that's also largely marginally in the green. It's the same for the Sensex. The India Volatility Index has retreated to a certain extent. It's down around 2.8%, around the mark of 14, not too much to speak for. Let's pull up some of those key gainers and losers in today's day of trade when it comes to the NSE 500. Well, Jindal Polyfilms actually stands out in trade and it's advancing by as much as nearly 10%. And that's followed by DCM Shriram. That's also up by as much as 5%, followed by Muthoot Finance, also up around 5.3%. And among the other stocks which are moving in trade, we have 8K Miles, which is now locked in upper circuit around nearly 5%. Sheela Foams, this is after a broking firm has initiated coverage on this particular stock, was also advancing by around 4.7%, followed by Monsanto up 4.5%. Let's take a look at the losers. Of course, Bank of Baroda is the other one, which is seeing a little bit of recovery after the kind of weakness that we saw. But in terms of losers on the NSE 500, we do have weakness in Take Solutions, a decline of 8% now. So, well, steep losses out there. Same for Dish TV, down 7%. Reliance Infra also down around 6%. Info Edge is one stock which is which is taken a little bit of a pounding over the previous few sessions. It's now edging well below the mark of 1,500 rupees per share. Jet Airways is the other one, which is down 4.5%. The same for HCL Info. Let's not forget some of the AMC names, such as HDFC. AMC is also really under pressure. And we'll continue to watch out for some of these names as we move in. But HDFC, AMC, as you can see, which is not a part of any of the broader market indices, but that is down as much as 8% after we've had news that a lot of these AMCs will have to cut their expenses. But, well, that's what we have in terms of the markets, Alex. Largely mixed, but a little bit of recovery on the benchmark indices.
All right, with that, let's get our two experts of the day in. Jignesh Mehta of kiranjadhav.com and Gaurang Shah of Geojit Financial Services are here to answer all of your questions today. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. I'm going to take the first question from the mails that we've received. Gunasekaran has written to us from Saudi Arabia. He has two stocks in mind, Idea Cellular and NBCC. He asks whether he should invest in them via SIP or whether he should go for a lump sum investment for the long term. Gaurang, the two stocks that he's talking about, Idea Cellular, in the telecom space, perhaps not the strongest, and the kind of pressure that they've seen, especially with the latest subscriber data coming out, pointing to most subscriber addition by Reliance Jio. Is it a safe bet for the long term? And the other one is NBCC.
Thank you, Alex, and good afternoon to all of you. Let me put it absolutely clear. There is nothing like safe bet in equity markets or equity market related instruments. Equity market investment, either through directly or via any other source, is a high risk, high return asset class. So if you are looking at safe investments, you are better off putting your money into bank FD. Even that is not safe according to me. Correct me if I'm wrong. Two investment ideas that is identified, Idea Cellular and I believe NBCC or NCC. I'm sorry, Alex, I lost the track of that.
NBCC.
Okay, so both are eligible candidates according to us in terms of long-term investment. But by definition, long-term in both these companies would mean at least 2.5, 3 years. Primarily because in cellular service provider sector, because of the competition, earning visibility is going to be under pressure, and I don't see any meaningful pricing power coming back. And after the merger of Idea and Vodafone, I think it will take synergies to evolve and play out at ground level over a longer period of time. On NBCC, well, it is a diversified construction-related company, has got huge orders in Delhi as far as building down old buildings and redeveloping them and putting them into place. It is also active into modernization of railway station and other road-related activity. But in a election year, approvals will come through very slow. Execution of order book will be equally slower, which will translate into disappointment in terms of earnings. So again, over here with a 2.5, 3 year plus time horizon, you can definitely invest. Or as an alternative investment idea, if I have to suggest something else, then Tata Steel in the metal pack look attractive. Mid-cap FMCG companies, either in form of a Dabur, Marico or an Imami, would qualify to be great investments, as he's wanting to do an SIP or a one-time investment.
All right, there you have it, guys. That's the views coming in some of those counters, but I'm going to take the next one up. And this is a largely technical one, considering it's a short-term view. We have Akash Agarwal, and his question is, should ICICI Prudential be bought at current levels for the short term? So I'm going to pull up ICICI Prudential. It's down 2%, currently trading at around 351, and toss it over to Jignesh. Jignesh, good afternoon. Your view on ICICI Prudential, and do you think it would be a good idea to go long on this one for the short term?
Good afternoon. I don't think this is going to be a rewarding bet currently going for long in this counter. Just because the counter is seeing lower top, lower bottoms, it is forming a downtrend, visible downtrend rather. And today, if you see, counter has visited its resistance, which is at around 356. Currently, it is into the pressure. I think long is not a good advice. Rather, I would say 356 is a good resistance. Every rise is an opportunity to create a short sell into the counter, which if it is not a future, we cannot do it. But I guess long is not a good idea. So I would suggest stay outside of this.
Well, that's a view on ICICI Prudential. We've got a question from M. Kumar on Facebook on Dilip Buildcon. He's currently holding 100 shares of Dilip Buildcon that he bought at 884. So he's making a substantial loss. In fact, the counter is down about 2.7% in trade today. He's asking what his strategy should be. Gaurang burnt his fingers a little bit here. What should his strategy be?
So I think protect your capital first. My advice is that. Secondly, enough news flows in terms of negativity on the company, and those news flows are in the public domain, and various platforms in terms of business news channels or electronic media, etc., etc. My humble request is, when you get this kind of news flows, you should act before time rather than sit back and wonder whether you want to book loss or not. Because at times what happens, Alex, is that your losses will multiply many folds in case if you don't take necessary remedial steps. No specific comments to Dilip Buildcon because we don't have a coverage, but in the infrastructure related space, my advice would be to look at L&T because they have a sizable presence in the infrastructure, and of course they've got other businesses as well. Other than that, KNR Constructions, PNC Infra, these would be the names that I would recommend from a long-term point of view.
Okay, so I've just addressed HDFC AMC, which is taking a knock. It's down as much as 8% in today's year of trade. It's come from the levels of well over 1,800 rupees per share to now, well, 1,400 rupees per share. We do have several questions on HDFC or AMC. Of course, we've had the news on the fact that, we're likely to see AMC take a hit on earnings on account of the new SEBI rules. But Gaurang, I'm going to come back to you on this one, considering this is a relatively more fundamental question. What would you do with HDFC AMC now? Would you enter at 1,400 rupees per share? If not, what levels would you be comfortable entering it into?
So firstly, let me give a disclosure. We had a subscribe recommendation in the IPO, and I believe the IPO floor was anything between 1,035 to 1,065, correct me if I'm wrong over there. Secondly, when it got listed, everybody chased the stock as if there is no tomorrow. And today, because of the news flow which is on the negative side, everybody wants to sell as if there is no tomorrow. So I think this herd mentality should not be there. We are quite optimistic that minus the short-term, medium-term negativity and the news flow that we had from SEBI of capping the expenses to 2%. Our understanding is that this SIP mode collection of AMCs has seen historical high collections, and these collections are only going to go to the next level of historical highs, purely because people now want to get associated with the growth story of India and the Indian equity markets, and more so via mutual fund SIPs. So we believe that from 1800 to 1420 or 1450, wherever it is trading right now, somebody on the street also felt that it is very expensively valued, etc., etc. So instead of timing the market and pricing the stock, my advice is to take the plunge. Don't put all your money at one time. Break it into parts of 3 and 4, and every 3-4% downtick correction would be a great time to add HDFC AMC to your portfolio. And I'm quite sure with a longer term period, 1750 in 1800 would be surpassed quite easily, and everybody will forget this negative news flow that we had last evening from SEBI.
Absolutely, Gaurang. A very pertinent point there. Don't try to time the market. In fact, that's the perfect springboard for the next question that we've got from Rahul Katare, who's asking about the right price to enter into HDFC Bank. Now, Gaurang, of course, is going to tell you that if you are convinced fundamentally about this bank, then you should definitely invest for the long term. But since you're asking about the right price, I'm going to ask Jignesh to weigh in on the technicals of it. How is it looking on the charts, Jignesh?
Well, HDFC Bank chart is not bad. I think stock is surviving above its support line. But currently the momentum is weak. If viewer is buying into this stock, he should understand that it is going to be a long-term bet. By meaning long-term bet, he should keep stop loss at around 1840 levels, which is 1840. I think stock will not be immediately surviving, not be looking to survive immediately. But I'm sure 1840 is a good level of support. And if stock survives that, again you will see a quick rally into it. Currently the momentum is weak, but it should be hold with a stop loss of 1840. Target should be, I think, earlier highs, which is 2200, and it should be achieved within next 2 to 3 months.
All right, there you have it. That's a view on HDFC Bank. And we move on and take a few more queries on mail. We have one from Kumaran Jiva. He writes to us on mail. He is planning to buy IDFC Bank and Engineers India at current levels with a 2 to 3 year view, and he wants to know whether or not it may be a good idea to actually move into both these counters at this point in time. Once again, a relatively longer term view. So Gaurang, I'm going to throw it open to you. What's your view on IDFC Bank and Engineers India? What would you advise the viewer to do?
Well, Engineers India, I would definitely say yes. It's a candidate that you should look at in terms of long-term investment. But IDFC Bank, I think it's a sticky subject, because if I'm not mistaken, the long pending merger with Bandhan Bank is also materializing. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we as a brokerage house remain positive on Capital First for a long time. And if the merger has to go through, signed, sealed, delivered and dusted, then synergies evolve, and Capital First would be the one that will have a much better, shareholders of Capital First would have a much better advantage rather than IDFC Bank shareholders. So since you're buying it, my advice would be to go and buy Capital First, because in terms of valuation and swap ratio as well, our understanding it is a win-win situation for Capital First shareholders, not IDFC Bank shareholders.
All right, Gaurang, we've got a number of questions about the latest PSU on the block. Ircon International, of course, whose IPO is open for subscription at the moment. We've got viewers asking whether it's a good stock to enter into, or rather, should they subscribe or not?
So Alex, again, unfortunately, the regulation prevents me from making any comments, because we've not come out with any kind of a note in form of a subscribe, don't subscribe, stay away. So difficult for me to comment on this one, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
All right, well, we'll move on and take a view on Sun Pharma, because we actually do have a few questions on Sun Pharma. Okay, we do have Kaushal Ram VV, and his question is, please let me know about whether or not it would be a good idea to go and long Sun Pharma at this point in time. So Jignesh, I'll throw this one open to you. Would you recommend going long or short for that matter at these levels? And what levels would you keep an eye on when it comes to resistances as well as supports?
I think Sun Pharma has a visibly strengthful chart structure. I guess stock is making higher tops, higher bottom. Currently, it is forming a base at around 640 some levels from last 4 days. I believe stock can be bought at current levels with a stop loss at around 625. Current levels are 646 something. So 625 should be stop loss. I think stock should reach immediately at 680. 680 should be eyed for short term. I think next 3 to 4 weeks, these are the level should be unfold. And if stock goes beyond 680, I think trailing stop loss is the strategy that I would recommend, and viewers should, I think, ride the rally with a trailing stop loss.
All right, that's a technical call on Sun Pharma. Let's pull up JBF Industries, and in fact, let's look at not just today's performance, but the year-to-date chart, because you'll see that it has declined significantly. Gaurang, we've got a viewer, Ram Hegde, who's asking whether it makes sense to enter this counter. It's down about 80% in the year-to-date period.
Alex, I'm sorry, would you repeat the counter?
JBF Industries.
Well, again, no coverage, so can't comment, Alex. Sorry about that.
Fair enough. I'll take a technical view. Jignesh, on the charts, JBF Industries, it's declined significantly since the start of the year. Does it make sense to make a fresh entry here?
I think a fresh entry does not make any sense, but if viewer is holding this counter, it has declined significantly. And if you see the current 200-day moving average is about 100 level, stock is trading at around 360. So I think one or two bounce is arrived currently. But that doesn't mean viewer can buy with a long view. But if it is holding, I mean, he should hold with a stop loss at around stop loss at around 34 something. But current long and current new entry, I wouldn't recommend.
All right, there you have it. That's a view on JBF Industries, of course, which has been extremely volatile. But I'm going to take the next one up, and this one is from Debarpan Sarkar on YouTube. He actually has questions on two stocks. The first one is HDFC Standard Life. His entry point in HDFC Standard Life is 460, and his question is whether or not 405 would be a good level at which he can go ahead and average his stock price. And the second question is on Interglobe Aviation, or whether or not it is a good entry point. So Gaurang, let's take one after another. Let's address HDFC Standard Life first. If you track this one, would you recommend going and averaging it out, buying new shares at this level? And secondly, if you could also tell us your view on Interglobe Aviation.
So Agam, on both we have a buy recommendation. And my understanding and strategy of averaging is like this. Suppose you bought a stock at 500 bucks. Don't average it unless you see a downtick of 4 or 5% or more. Once you see that downtick, don't average entire 100 shares if you bought 100 shares at a higher level, but average 25 to 30%. And break that up into 3 or 4 further investments at lower levels of the correction that I mentioned to you. I think if you do this, because investing into equity market requires a lot of discipline, and if you want to average, it requires even more discipline, because you can't be averaging at a 0.5% or a 0.25% correction. That's not a meaningful averaging according to me. And to have a meaningful averaging and an impact on your investment level, I think if you follow this strategy, would possibly be successful enough to average at various levels, bring down your cost of acquisition, and over a longer period of time exit at profit. From a long-term point of view, we have a buy coverage on both HDFC Life as well as Interglobe Aviation.
All right. Gaurang, we've got a question from one of your fans. In fact, Girish Patil is saying that you are his favorite. He's got a couple of questions for you with regard to the pharma space. So I'm just going to club all of that together. We've also got Anup Sahu who's asking for a long-term view on Sun Pharma and Dr. Reddy's. I believe we've already got a technical call on Sun Pharma. Girish Patil's got a question on Lupin as well as Pfizer. If you can broadly give our viewers a sense of what to do with the pharma space at the moment.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank Girish. Hi, Girish. Thanks for those compliments. It's always our endeavor, along with Bloomberg Quint, to make investors informed investors, intelligent investors, and long-term investors, not short-term traders. So with that perspective, we always try to deliver our best. And I thank Bloomberg Quint and all the anchors associated with this show, Ask BQ, to give me this opportunity. Now, as a disclosure, we have a positive view on Lupin. And in fact, to be very honest, Alex, we have almost about 12 companies, if I recollect my memory right, in the pharma sector. And this is again one sector along with IT, which nobody wanted to touch 2 years back. Even 1.5 years back, if you would have asked anybody on the street whether you should invest in pharma, they would possibly say, look, man, there are better sectors than stock to invest in. But last 6 months, 8 months, there have been a lot of positive news flows. So I'll list down the stock, if you will. Lupin, Dr. Reddy's, Sun Pharma, Cipla, Glenmark, Alembic Pharmaceuticals, Ipca, Cadila, Stride Sassoon, Aurobindo Pharma, Netco Pharma. It's the whole list, Alex, that we are positive on. And be patient with the investments in pharma. The only problem, Alex, is one bad news on one pharma company and the entire Indian pharma sector goes into the ICO. So you got to, if you are able to withstand that volatility short to medium term, I'm definitely sure Indian pharma companies that we have listed down would be very rewardable from a long-term point of view.
All right, there you have it. That's a view on your pharma sector. But, well, we'll move on and take a view on Radico Khaitan, because we do have Mayank Saraf on YouTube who needs a view on Radico, which is currently trading at about 413. It's up as much as 2%. And well, again, just like any other mid-cap counter, Radico Khaitan has also been fairly volatile over the recent few days. Jignesh, what's your view on Radico Khaitan? Would you long or short this counter at this point in time? Of course, you can't really short considering it's not in the F&O space, but would you at least buy?
Yes, of course. Buying makes sense in here just because stock is not only making higher tops, higher bottoms. Recently, it has seen good kind of volumes. I think stock has gone to 500 levels and then it has corrected to around 400 some levels. From 400, it is showing the sign of support. I believe currently the chart is priced at around 380 levels. So I think 380 makes a good sense as a stop loss. 413 is some levels which is going on currently. So 380 is a stop loss and target should be at around 485 some levels. I believe stock can be bought with a medium term view. I think 2 to 3 months is going to be a good for this counter. 485 should be the first minimum target in Radico Khaitan.
All right, that's the view on Radico Khaitan. We've reached the time on the show where we launch into the rapid fire. In case some of you are not aware, this is 2 minutes where we try to take as many questions as possible. This is a call out to our two experts also to give us our views or your views as quickly as possible. Gaurang, I'm going to come to you first. We've got a question from Shiva Kumar. Off the top of your head, one mid-cap company that you think has good fundamentals that is a good buy for the long term.
So a recent listing in form of not exactly a mid-cap, but a new listing about a year and a half back, Godrej Agrovet, looks quite promising from a long-term point of view.
Okay, the next question, Jignesh, is for you. Which is the better auto company, Balkrishna Industries or Jamna Auto? This one is from Sri Vidya.
Right. I think he has asked me 2 questions, so I'll have to hurry opening the chart. I think Jamna Auto looks better because Balakrishna is, I think, giving a swing recently. Jamna Auto can be bought with a stop loss at around 75. Target should be 98 in 2 months.
All right, Harsh Kumar has got a question for you, Gaurang. Which picks for you, two picks preferably in the NBFC space and private bank space?
So in NBFC, L&T Finance and Holding, which is trading at I think 150 or 160, looks quite attractive. And the second one, possibly if I have to mention a housing finance company, that would be LIC Housing Finance. Private sector banks, Yes Bank amongst the mid-cap private sector bank, and maybe Axis Bank amongst the large cap.
All right, the next question is on Amit Agarwal. His question is on Punjab National Bank. Can he buy Punjab National Bank at current levels? That's the question. Jignesh, that's for you.
No, I think Punjab National Bank shouldn't be bought. It has a resistance at around 90, which is a very steep resistance. Unless and until stock goes above 90, it should not be ventured.
All right, last question. Keshav Sharan, AB Capital. Would you recommend a fresh entry, Gaurang?
Well, we don't cover the stock. I would rather advise him to put money into, I just mentioned the name, L&T Finance and Holding. Looks quite promising long term.
Well.
All right, well, there you have it, guys. We've run out of time on this show, so I'm going to have to thank both our experts, Gaurang as well as Jignesh, for joining us and taking us through their their views, as well as solving some of the viewer queries. And, well, that's all that we have on this edition of Ask BQ. But remember, we are just a tweet, a post, or a call away. So keep your queries coming, and we promise to address all of them through our shows. You can also log on to bloombergquint.com, search for Ask BQ, and get answers to all the queries that were discussed on the show today. But up next is Power Lunch. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.